think of the game, Salso?
Yeah, let's kind of like go from there. So I think the game was what we expected, right? Like LAFC never really pushes a lot in the beginning. They don't want to get tired in the second half. I don't know what it is, but at the end of the day, I think what decided that game was the red card, right? And it's on the Rapids, not on us. And there was still 20, 30 minutes that the team couldn't really find itself. And finally, Denis Bouanga found a way to beat the defense. So we talked about this offline. We were talking before it. And the main thing is with Denis Bouanga is when he gets to that speed, anything's going to be a penalty kick. And I think that's really kind of been where people get upset because what are you going to do, right? The guy's coming at you a million miles an hour. And if you do any little thing, they're gonna call it on you. So I think, unfortunately, people didn't like the penalty, but it goes back to how naive the Rapids are every time they play us, and we know that those are the regular season teams that we tend to spank, right? And
Yeah.
that's why I said, Eric, if they don't show up for this game, they're never gonna show up. So, but
Yeah, I hear you, man, but like, did we really show up at this game? I feel like this game was kind of just handed to us by the official with that red card. I mean, and up until Denny's penalty, which as I said earlier, is for me was kind of a 50-50 penalty. I can see that getting called, see it not. You were telling me as well, as you just said, Denny at full speed, it's a different thing. And most good teams will stop Denny and they won't let him get to full speed so that situation doesn't happen. They should have fouled him before they got in the box. All fair points. But I just feel like with 10 guys, almost the entire first half, we just weren't threatening at all. They
mm,
they tried to move the ball back and forth from sideline to sideline to kind of pull
mm,
Colorado apart, but they just weren't fast enough at it to really pull them apart. They didn't really get much threatening stuff in the middle, and we get that Bouanga moment, and that really changed it. I think the
mm,
second half adjustments that came out, they started putting together much better combinations, and that was good. But I also think if Colorado doesn't go down to 10 guys in this game, those opportunities wouldn't have came, and we'd be looking at another match where LAFC plays a bottom of the table team to a draw. You know?
yeah. Yeah, and we may see that now with Dallas coming in, and we'll talk about a little bit about that game at the end of our show because with Dallas, they're going to come in the same situation that Colorado came in, which was in short rest. I'm pretty sure Colorado played this weekend. We took a break because we took a break, but they came in tired, and now Dallas had a break because they didn't play during the week, and now we have to play them in short notice, right, with some lags. So we know, for example, Tafari is going to play, and that's one of the things I wanted to ask you, right? Because the depth that we had at center back was excellent, but with Marlon leaving, and I think someone already brought that up in the channel here, with Marlon
Yeah.
leaving, it changed the depth tremendously, and we're now having to say, hey, Tafari, you're the guy. And for what we saw Tafari earlier in the season, it didn't look so good. So, what do you think of our center back rotation without Marlon? Understanding that was a tough decision that had to happen.
Yeah. I mean, I was super high on Marlon. I when I saw that he was part of our history, I really, man, it really hit me because I feel like Marlon is was the best center back we have on our team. I think he's even a better center back than Long is. He just has his injury issues, and to me, I felt like we really dropped the ball on it. And I feel you too, Sebastian. If we get a draw, I'm gonna be pissed as well. And it's good to see Hobo in the chat. But further on Marlon. And you mentioned this as well, and maybe that's something you can talk about because Marlon came here due to a FIFA clause because of the war in Ukraine, and we picked him up from Dynamo Kiev, and they didn't necessarily want him to go, did they?
Yeah, I think with the Rapids, sorry, with Marlon and the Ukraine issue was mostly um, JT, being opportunistic, finding guys that are on the verge of leaving places that are undervalued at times. But nobody denies the value that Marlon has as a center back for everything he's accomplished in his career. But the reality is, dude, he got beaten by Eddie Segura because every time Eddie played, the team looked better with him there. It didn't necessarily added that much to justify a much higher salary like he was demanding. So you have basically the whole thing with Ukraine, the fact that he was underplaying his contract here. And, JT is very pragmatic when it comes to value, right? And that's
Y-
really what happened. He was a victim of it. We kind of preempted that was going to happen. The problem, Eric, is that the league doesn't have a market to move a guy earlier before that becomes eminent. And the other thing is I thought it was a little naive unless there was really no other way to make his deadline, like on at the end of June. Like I just don't understand why he was only one of the guys that had his contract until the end of June. Maybe that was a Ukraine thing.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think there's a lot of probably details with that FIFA exemption that happened, but I wish we could have found a way to make it work. We didn't, and I guess
Maybe
that's
look,
that. You know, I
this
I think
this is
one
encouraging.
one of the things that wasn't utilized by him is he was a really good passer and he had a really good long ball. You know,
Yeah.
Segura is a good passer. Marlon was a very good passer, and he is a guy much like a Tuesta, who I love and maybe other people don't so much, but was another great passer of the ball.
Yeah.
And we lose these great passers of the ball, and we're stuck with this one-dimensional attack because the guys that could make the line-breaking passes we don't keep around, and we just keep
Mhm.
like press merchants basically.
Yeah, I can see your point. But yeah, it's a system thing, right? Just like it was with Giroud. So I think it's once again a problem that we're facing because stuck in Dolo's system and it's not very flexible. The guys have a role and they're gonna play their role. So it, it really goes back to how the team plays and succeeds. The problem is that everybody knows how to beat this team. And if they execute it correctly, they're absolutely gonna have success with that. And that's really where we I have a problem with how we play because there's absolutely no way that these guys don't have great minds in training and come up with new systems and different things. I believe that that happens, but we don't see a lot of it. Like what's going on? Why is not Palencia maybe picking up more minutes as a center back? And we're dishing a three back with him coming and then Smolyakov getting more minutes. These are the types of things that I wish this group of coaches would do more because it seems like if you don't fit their role, it's out, right? And then we've seen a lot of players come in and go because they didn't fit the system. Giroud being the less, the best example of
Yeah,
that, but not the only one.
for a long time. Yeah, I hear you. And then what is the system right now? I mean, that's I think another good question. I think it was Bogart kind of said like one of the things LAFC need in this transfer window is an identity, and what is the identity of this team? You know, when we have the ball, we look kind of lost, and when we don't have the ball, we look better with the ball, until we get the ball. And then it's basically like shoot it down the wing to Bawanga and see if he makes something happen. If he doesn't, give them the ball and wait for another opportunity to take it and sling it down to him again. So
Yeah,
we'll see how.
counter striking with counter pressing. Um,
Yeah,
very, very. I would say it works most of the time, 100% of the time, but it doesn't all the time. And we've seen it. And if coaches know how to defend it, it's just not going to work.
yeah.
Um,
Going as you're saying with Palencia, I think Palencia has also been a mismatch in the system. Uh, Attacking, he doesn't really add anything, I think. And the problem is we need more elements to the attack because our midfielders don't add anything to the attack either. So we have
mm,
midfielders that don't add to the attack and a fullback that doesn't add to the attack. Hollingshead on the other side, he adds to the attack, and we can see that whether but Hollingshead has to crash the box to be useful. He can't sit on the flanks. Palencia doesn't do much when he advances, and he doesn't do much if he crashes the box either. which is why he's scored one goal for LAFC and like 2 goals in his entire, I think 1 goal is his entire MLS career.
It's pretty bad.
So as a center back, yes, but then we don't have anybody on that side. I mean, I think we need a more attacking fullback, which we don't have. Dolo likes to have a defensive fullbacks because I think he was more of a defensive fullback when he played, and so he's comfortable with 4 defenders in the back, and then he also wants midfielders who defend, and it doesn't leave you much left in the attack, at least in MLS with the roster rules, and so I think that's
True.
also the issue is that we've said it before. Everybody spends on their DP attackers, and so you have non-DP defenders dealing with DP attackers. When your decision is you're going to absorb pressure, it means you're absorbing mismatches a lot. And when we do have the ball, we just don't do enough with it.
Well, but that's by design, and I do believe with MLS it works, right? The problem is when you face Chelsea and other teams of that caliber. The
Yeah,
comment that I got about MLS teams from international watchers that were watching the Club World Cup was the teams play very compact, very tight. And that can be said of LAFC. You look around, everybody's bunched up in one part of the team and they move as a unit. Um, and then they create chaos around the ball to try to get the knee or someone in speed in encounters, right? And that's been the magic formula for us, especially playing at home. Because what players, teams get frustrated. They either come here and try to defend, or they come out and they try to be aggressive and they get burned, especially with the use of our fullbacks. The one thing, and I think we should be talking about is Durosa. Javairo plays extremely wide, and he plays more like a wing back, right, than really a right winger. And there's evidence of that in his heat map. He's extremely starting his runs extremely from the right side of the field. So we may not be the fullback if Javaro is going to be around, right? So I do see. Um, I was critical of him yesterday, even though he had a great game, but I can see the role that he plays by kind of suppressing us as a fake fullback that can initiate runs and contribute in the offense. So let's talk about Javaro. Let's put the DP thing aside because it messes up our judgment of the player. What do you think of him as a contributor to this team? And what have you seen from him so far, especially yesterday?
yeah, and I was like you said, I think I start with him with a bit of a bias because there's the whole DP thing, and but
Mhm.
if you take that aside, I thought he played pretty well yesterday. He had a good work rate off the ball, a good work rate on the ball, and he got a really nice, a very calm finish for that third goal. And so that it's what you want to see out of a guy. He hasn't been here; he hasn't had a ton of time. So I mean, just that alone, and again, like that goal, and as Sebastian said, in the second half, we changed to a more attacking formation, and when you get him up there with the attack, it definitely looks a lot better when this team is attacking. The
Yeah.
one the one other thing I think on that is what do we do with Martinez? It's like Martinez is a young
Nothing.
guy; he's got to develop. And does Dilrosun take away from Martinez? Because I'm really at this point with this team, I'm play the kids guy because
Hmm.
I don't see a lot of hope for this season. So I want to see us developing guys for next season. And the second goal with Ordaz, I love the poaching that he did. I always get super happy
That's
when I
what you
see.
want from a center forward.
Yes. No,
Poacher.
when I see Ordaz score, it makes me happy. And Ordaz plays the system how it needs to be. Dilrosun is great as well. But I like Martinez out there. So I think if those two can kind of play together, man, and maybe Martinez is just not going to be a 90-minute guy. Maybe it's going to be a 60-30 moving forward with them. But again, that comes the DP argument. Like you want your DPs on the field at all times.
You do. And then again, if you compare with the guy that he replaced, was Christian Oliveira. Christian Oliveira played extremely wide and was always able to pick up on the defensive side of the ball. He had an amazing defensive work rate for a forward. In fact, one of the things we're going to talk about later is some of the Brazilian players that may be moving to Brazil, right? They're in MLS and what they bring to the teams. But one of the things that people are expecting now, it's not really an option, is that your forwards, right? Your wingers, your right wings forwards, they have to defend the fullbacks when they come forward. And this has been LAFC sauce, right? When Holland's had attacks and when Valencia comes, we come in with numbers and advantage. So you have to defend that. I remember Douglas Costa was horrible at it. And that was one of the things that we just. Boanga, however, is pretty decent at defending. He used to defend a lot more. Now he's all isolated up there. But on the other side, right, on the right wing, you might have Jiro-san. I haven't looked at him defensively and what he does, but I feel like he could be a better match than Martinez. Martinez, to me, he has to just hover around the box. He has to be the guy that creates shots for other players from a central position, whether he goes left or right. It will not work on a 4-3-3 when your team is playing extremely wide on the field, right? And you saw his heat map. Um, it, it's a guy that has a lot to give, but if you can get rid of him and not lose money, maybe that money is better spent elsewhere, right? And maybe that
Yeah.
position is spent with some other guy. He hasn't popped, that's for sure, right? He's not popped. People are getting
No, he
really
hasn't.
impatient.
He's a little Brian Rodriguez esque for LAFC, just on the other side. Like,
Not even that, dude, because Brian, if you look historically, had a shit ton of assists and he was a goal contributor one way or another. He just
yeah,
didn't
no,
know
I
how to
suppose
do
you're
it.
right. That's a hot take right there.
I
Um,
can see more Boanga sometimes doing the B Rod, but he just runs into his guys. And, oh my God, I've seen this move. But on the right side, with Davi, he's got like footwork, right? But it feels like it's more up here. It's like, where are you going with this thing? Like, do you have a plan? Or you just want to show that you have foot skills, which is a problem sometimes with young guys.
yeah, no, you know what it is. He just isn't finishing, and that's the thing. If Martinez, he's taken some good shots, from low percentage things, and he's just barely missed. And isn't
Yeah.
that the same thing we had with Brian? It's like Brian just missed those shots, and
Yeah.
if he puts like 20% of those shots in, he's a totally different player, different contribution, but shoulda, coulda, woulda. The last thing I was thinking about with Duroson is, he is a Dutch player, and so he's going to
Mhm.
come from a much more like, I, I think with him, he's going to probably be a very complete winger on that side, and as you were saying with the defense, and I just think it comes with a lot of Dutch players, which Pantsil's another one. It's like huge work rate and really good tactical awareness. And so this is kind of, I think, the thing with Duroson that I am hoping to see out of him as he probably gets more minutes. I think he earned more minutes with that last match.
Well, fuck it. We got him for a little bit longer, and he's gonna be around for a few more games. I wouldn't be surprised if they just extend him until the end of the year. That would be fine with me. I think he's already shown more than Changes did. So to me, is an update to Changes. Um, and
Well,
I didn't think about your point, but I really appreciate that. The fact that he kind of plays a little bit like a fullback. He comes back a lot, he defends, and he seems to be kind of very wide, which gives us this different shape, especially if you want to start three in the back, right? Some people
yeah.
miss changes, like I said. I don't. Do you miss changes?
No, I don't. I don't really. I think he really couldn't get rolling, especially with that like $18 million price tag. It was a little bit ridiculous. But
Yeah.
I will say his opening game was the one where he intercepted that ball and put like that long ball assist to Boanga. And if he could have built off that, but he really got quiet after that, and that's kind of the thing. It's like he struck and then he got quiet, and that's I guess the thing with Dilrosun is like, is he going to continue at the pace? Like he got a goal
Hmm.
pretty quick,
I hope so.
his goals per 90 is nice. Is it to continue to get goals? Is he going to put up assists? And that's what we need to see, and I have a
Yeah, we
feeling
need
he's going to
someone
start
else
against
than
Dallas.
Denis to create shots, and if he can
Yeah,
be that guy, great. He seems to. It's tough to judge the team, and I saw a lot of that commentary. Hey, yeah, they got a red card in the 5th minute. Went to park the bus for the last the next 30. We get a penalty kick, which was questionable, but it was. And then we beat the shit out of them in the second half. Like typical Chris Armas game, by the way. But you know what I mean? It's just not enough to judge. Oh, this is a comeback. We're gonna take this team very far. I still believe this team to be a mid-table team, and
same. You know who I
it's
was?
gonna take time.
I don't know why it popped in, but I found myself missing Kellen Acosta after that
Yeah,
game, and like he
it's a
added
great guy.
so much more fluidity to our midfield. And I know
Yeah.
Kellen Acosta's not the same player he was back in the 22 season, but like Acosta
Mhm.
is such a he could make those passes when we needed it, and he pretty much did everything that like Delgado does. And I think he was just a
Mhm.
little bit better in attack. But and that's again like with our midfield, we just don't have the right complementary pieces for all this. And I completely went on a tangent, but I just had to throw
No,
Kellen
no, it's
Costa's
cool.
name out there because I thought of him.
No, it's true, and I think this window, even though it's the second window, right? Um, it's never really the greater window of Major League Soccer, so we don't
No,
expect
this
things to
is
be. No, well, it could be for
this is the
us,
Euro window.
but the
This is
problem
this
with
is
this
when we
window,
got Le
right,
Giroud.
is that and we've done I consider kind of like the what they do in baseball, where they bring in a couple guys at the trading deadline to like beef up their squad as a whole, which means JT may not go crazy this window. It might just be patches, and we might just kind of let's see what's going on. Why? The biggest thing is Dolo. He's leaving. So you're going to make patches. You're going to try to see this team through. But beyond that, are you really going to spend a bunch of money on a guy that may not want to be here for the next coach? I don't know, man. Unless we already
Yeah,
know who the next coach is.
no, this is true, and I guess a sign on this is: do we start Martinez next game, or do we start
Of course.
Dilrosun? Because if this is the case, if we're just kind of waiting to pick up guys next season, then you need to give the kids the experience out there.
Mhm. Well, but look, what are we playing for? And so let's just kind of think about the calendar for a second. We have the Leagues Cup coming up, and that tournament on its own is going to generate some chances for players, right? Beyond that, you have the playoffs, which, unless we're a horrendous team, which we're not, we're mid tier, we're going to make it. We're probably going to
Yeah,
have one or two games at home, right? So, what are we playing for? Really, two moments. Whether we're going to make it in Leagues Cup or not, we usually show up strong there, and whether we're going to make the playoffs and be a deep run. It's now become an American sport, right? Which it's very anti-football to not have this like, oh my God, are we going to win the league, right? Every game counts. It's a knockout every game, which is like the cups that make this game exciting. But now in Major League Soccer, all we have to play for is the playoffs. So for a hero guy coming in and looking at a project, I don't know if it's enough. That it has to be more than that. In the beginning of me here, you have Conca champions and so much.
yeah,
Last thing I'll say about this, Eric, coming in early could help you get acclimated to the country and the culture and all this shit, but it doesn't always work out. Look at Giroud. It hurt him to come in late, so it's not always a good thing for these Euro guys to come in late in the season. Is my point.
yeah. And I'm honestly kind of tired of the aging Euro guys. We had the Heung-min Son rumor that came out, and that's the guy. He's 33 years old. He's still kind of
That's
in
the
that
guy we
window.
need.
I pulled up a stat. I think 2 weeks ago that basically no MLS team has ever won the MLS Cup with a DP that was signed over the age of 33.
Oh man.
That's it. Zero. Zero in the
Wait,
history
what
of
about Gareth
MLS.
Bale?
Oh, Gareth Bale wasn't a DP.
Oh, major asterisk. I love it. Bang.
Yeah.
Which tells
No,
me that these guys never should be DPs.
yeah,
I
no,
agree.
as a DP, and this is with Heung-min Son, it's with Griezmann in mind, it's with Giroud in mind. It's to our whole front office. If anybody ever watches this show, again, the stat: no MLS team ever has won the cup signing a DP over the age of 33. The DP that was the age of 33 was David Beckham.
Hmm.
Carlos Vela, he was, I believe, 31 when he
Yeah.
was when he played with us. So
Well, we need a key player like that. If they want to do a splash, they will get like a key. I would love to see another Mexican icon here. I think it would really help the team, the club, rally behind the Mexican community in LA for obvious reasons. But it breeds that kind of culture, and it would absolutely ignite this stadium, right? But it has to be the right player, and we're not going to just get a guy there because of whatever. Um, I, uh, but man, we talked enough about this stuff. We're shooting the shit here, which is good because we're having a
yeah,
shooting the shit kind of show. No big deal. We're gonna go back to our regular schedule on Monday. We're gonna test the shit out of this and make it beautifully produced. But for this show, we're kind of shooting the shit, talking about what happened yesterday
yeah,
and
because I'm
this
on my
upcoming game.
phone and somebody's trying to call me right now, and I was like, God
It's all
damn
right.
it.
It's okay. It's a small show for friends. We don't
Pretty
usually meet
much,
on
yeah,
Thursdays anyways, and it's just good to talk to you. But look, man, one thing I need to talk to you about is the Dallas game. I think we've beat this Colorado shit to death, and it's
yeah.
good. I think Dolo's answer. I was gonna play his video here. We don't have to. He
No,
said the
let's do
team
it.
played
Let's do
well
it.
when they needed to play well. It was very methodical as usual. Nothing to talk about there, right? But you're a really Dolo out guy, huh? You wanted him to leave early.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And I know hobos want to coach Razov, but if they're
That's
gonna
what's gonna
go coach
happen.
Razov, they have to let him do it now, 100%. Like, because, man, I mean, if they wait to this off season and then they announce Coach Razov, it's gonna fall so flat. And I think a lot of fans and I think a lot of season ticket holders are starting to really question how badly this team wants to win. They
Yeah.
they talk about how they want championships, but their moves just don't back it up. It's like talk the
Mm-hmm.
talk, but then walk the walk. And
Mm-hmm.
big clubs, ambitious clubs don't do this. They don't do any of this. I think after kind of that tournament, like it's time for Dolo to move on because what's
Yeah.
what's coming of it? Like what good is having him stick around? We're playing some of the most boring soccer I've seen this team ever play.
Yeah, I think that's the frustration, which is why I disagreed 100% with the timing of the announcement. You really didn't have to announce the shit when you did. Maybe someone would have found out. That's different. Maybe the club wanted it out for obvious reasons. Maybe Dolo needed it out to get his name out there. I don't know. If you believe what you believe,
I
he's not going to stay until the end of the year, and we will finish the season with Ante Razov.
with
So when that's going to happen, I don't know. I think it really has to do with some of the success that he has
I
immediately,
think
but also when things get ready for his next stop. Right? You don't
I think
move without a job. You just don't.
I think the only reason he announced his retirement is because that debacle against Miami was so bad that like
Mm.
any team in the world that was serious would fire their coach immediately after that match. Like when they got home,
Yeah.
they would announce that the coach was gone. Can you imagine, any Brazilian team ever like losing out of Libertadores like that with basically a 3-goal advantage in the second leg with like absolutely not. Like if they didn't
They're not
the
there.
the fan councils would remove the president.
It's a different dynamic, and one thing I don't know is how these contracts for coaches here are structured. I mean, given the Greg Vanny saga, it must be impossible to fire a coach here.
Solo makes
DC
like
United said, "Fuck
500K
it,
a
we're
year.
out."
Like fucking eat it. Like it's 250,000 for half a year. Like the
I
club
have no
can't
idea,
fucking do that.
but I have to talk to you about something which I at some point called for Chiellini to be the replacing coach,
I
and
love this.
this motherfucker just trumped me out. Bang.
Pure aura.
And
Pure
just straight up
aura.
decided to buy a chunk of the club and say, I ain't gonna be coach, I'm gonna be owner. So let's talk about Chiellini staying with us, the ultimate black and gold, now an owner of the club, someone that played here and now a co-owner. Are you happy with that move? I think a lot of people are, but what does it mean to you?
I mean, all right. If you're going to name a more loved player in LAFC than Carlos Vela, who besides Chiellini could it even be?
Yeah, I have a tough time. Maybe Rossi, but now he's with someone else. So it's kind of like Chicho, he's with someone else. It's like
Yeah,
there's really
George
nobody.
Giorgio did it right, man. Like he rode off in the sunset in style. Like
Mhm.
and yeah, that was that.
That was
Yeah,
that.
I any reason he has to like stick around this team is awesome for me. Like I love
Hmm.
Giorgio. I didn't know much about him until he got here, and he's just like the raddest guy. And he was a great player. One of the highest football IQs I think that's ever been around. I think you could put him up against like the legends of the game for the last 100 years, and he's probably going to be in the top 50 or even better. I mean, and we're talking with like guys like with IQs of like Pele or like
Yeah.
Cannavaro or Del Piero, like the great tacticians of the game. Like Chiellini's up there.
Yeah. 100%. I think he's great, and I think he's going to be a great addition. I don't know what role exactly he's going to play, but I'm excited that he's a part of our organization, someone that has a knack for European talent and can become this bridge and really guide this team beyond what it needs. Be a bridge between ownership, right, and the field because he knows how things work downstairs as well. So great, great hire. Happy that he's going to be around. I think we only have to gain with him around, but look. Dallas. Let's talk about that. So back-to-back games. Suddenly we have to play another team. Great opportunity for us to solidify ourselves a little bit in the Western Conference. I don't even know where we are right now with the standings because we haven't been really paid attention to Major League Soccer. But Dallas hasn't really looked so good. They're below us and have had their hands full with the better teams of this league. One of the bottom feeders of this league, 13th right now, only 5 wins overall. So they do come in, however, fresh. So what do you think is going to happen here, Eric? Of course, we're going to rotate some players. Do you expect LAFC to keep rolling, or tell me your prognostic for this game?
I don't know what to expect. All if the ref doesn't knock them down to 10 guys real quick, like are we going to handle them easily? Like I hope so.
Hmm.
We should.
Yeah.
So as far as like lineups and things like that, like I would love to see Smoliakov play. I'd love to see Martinez play. We're playing a really poor team in shambles right now, so this is a time to give some minutes to those guys who are trying to work into the roster and prove themselves, I think. And then second half, you can come in if you have trouble, you come in second half and you bring out the big guys. But nonetheless, this is MLS, and so the salary caps are there, and Dallas is not like a team that could never tie us or beat us at home, especially with our form. So we do have to be careful. We do have to not let this be a trap game.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna be a trap game. I mean, these guys are not in form. San Jose beat the shit out of them. San Diego won 3-2, which was like a really good game. Apparently, Minnesota won because they're a really good team, right? 2-1 away. So we're at home. I expect us to show up. I don't think we're gonna let off the gas, and I think this is gonna be a convincing win. I was concerned at first that lags were going to be an issue, but even with our deep depth players, um, these guys, as someone said here in the chat, a lot of them have kind of give up. They don't say that to you, right? They're professionals, but they don't really have an identity. They don't have a key player they're rallying behind. Acosta's complete bust. So
Man, I
nothing's
was just
working at
talking about
Dallas.
so well earlier.
What's that?
I was just talking up Acosta earlier.
Oh no, no, I'm talking about the little guy. You know what I mean? Not
Uh,
Kellen. He's in Dallas. Acosta's in Chicago as a
oh
captain,
yeah,
making a lot more money than he would ever make with us. So I
this is true.
understand why he's there. He's with Greg. He's doing like a different project. Good for him, right? Like it's what you want, and unfortunately, it's what happens in MLS. If the roster rules were different, he was likely going to continue to be an LAFC player, and then Chicago would have had money to go spend on a new guy, right? So in a way, it does hurt the league because you keep recycling these motherfuckers because we run out of cap room and they have to go play somewhere else. So it really does not matter, right? That this guy, it just does. Yeah, Lucho Acosta. Yeah, he's definitely a guy, right? He's a difference maker. But if you look at FC Cincinnati with Evander, they're the ones that won that trade big time. Evander and Cincinnati are a great project, and they're gonna continue to be a threat on the East Coast where we should beat the shit out of Dallas. So my comment
Yeah,
on Twitter yesterday was, look, if we can't beat the crap out of this Rapids team that comes in here and always folds to us, there's something wrong with his locker room. I don't think there's anything wrong with the locker room, right? But I think this gonna be another one of those places where we're gonna be measuring your level of attentiveness to the season and can you beat the shit out of a bad team, right? And if you can't,
yeah,
in front of your fans, something is wrong.
yeah. No, I think part of it is just like their instructions. Like at this point, again with like I've beaten this one to death, but Tillman not making forward passes in the final third at all, and I think basically
Yeah, he's
Tillman's
not told to probably.
exactly. I think he's specifically told not to because
I know.
yeah, they're like don't do it. Like Tillman,
Or
you're not
Igor
doing this.
Jesus and how much that kid could probably do for us offensively. But if you look at his posture through the entire game, it's just as this like flanker in case we lose the ball. He's never gonna
Hundred
go
percent, yeah.
beat that marker. He's always gonna be in front of them.
No, Jesus, he makes great passes. Like he's just so versatile in mid because like every once in a while he will throw a forward pass and
Hmm.
he has some really crazy visions on his passes. But yeah, generally they just make him sit right in front of the center backs. Like he's way off in the back. There's way too much field for him to do anything.
Yeah, I think I think for this game, I'm gonna say who I think we should start. I would probably start Loris because we should never rotate goalkeepers. If someone's healthy, play the first fucking goalkeeper. That's it. On the right side, again, who do you play there? Palencia probably, right? But I wouldn't be surprised if he moves somewhere else to give room for Smoliakov and he's coming off the bench. But maybe this is a game for Hollins had to start off the bench. On the center, we're going to see Tafari. He's already being announced by LAFC. He's going to be talking tomorrow with the media, which means he's going to be playing. On the other side, who do you
It's his
play?
old team. Dallas is his old team.
Yeah, and then you got a little bit of a narrative with the law of the X. Maybe he'll get us a
Yeah,
goal,
Dallas could be
and
like,
bring his
hey,
dog to the fucking game, whatever he does. He's a wild
yeah,
cat.
they're gonna be like, hey,
I
how does it?
like that. I like that he's getting another chance, but he's a much lesser center back than Marlon, and let's just move on. On the
He
left side,
he's got like no
Smoliakov.
minutes this year. Like,
Right,
what
because he's
narrative?
behind
Dallas
a
is like,
very
oh yeah, we
fucking
traded
deep
you to
team.
LAFC and now you hardly play.
Yeah, and the only reason he's gonna get minutes, it's because Chanot's head is messed up for good. Yeah, I'm joking, of course, but he cannot play with a head injury. On the midfield,
He's had a head injury all
Igor
year.
Delgado sits. Amaya plays, maybe. Yeah, Amaya. And on the other side, maybe Tim Tillman continues to play. He seems to have the lung, so that's not an issue. And then up front,
Yeah,
Denis Boanga, of course. In the middle, then Martinez, and on the right side, Giro's son, or Nathan Ordaz. So it's up to coaches who's fresher, right? But that's gonna be my starting 11. All right, Eric, who would you change based on this starting 11?
I mean, if yeah, if we're going crazy, I mean, I'd love to see Smoliakov, but I think they'll start with Hollingshead and
Mhm.
they'll probably sub him out for Smoliakov. Tafari's going in there, so yeah, Long will be at Tafari just to be steady. I
Hmm.
don't think it'll go Tafari and Segura. I think it just the one on one. The one on one is interesting because the thing with Tafari is he's not the greatest one on one guy, but he's really athletic and his recovery speed is really insane. And so if that guy does get beaten, he tends to get another bite of the apple. And so that's I think one of his big strengths as a center back. And then yeah, then you have Palencia because do we have another right back? I don't think so. Um,
Well,
mid
yeah, that's it.
midfield,
Unless we
yeah,
don't play a
midfield
right
gets tough.
back.
I like Frankie Amaya. I could see Frankie Amaya. I think with Igor and Tillman is better. I think Frankie Amaya subbing for Delgado keeps us more consistent. I think, and then yeah, up front, man, I love Ordaz starting at the 9, so I'd keep Ordaz at
Hmm.
the 9, and I think they will go Bouanga because he always plays, and
Hmm.
I think Doroson's going to get the start, and maybe Martinez comes in later on. I like putting Martinez at the 9 at the false 9. I think that's also a really good spot for him, but
Hmm.
I also think with Martinez that his off the ball work rate isn't the best. And I think when you put him up in that false 9, he tends to not really get open much to get the ball. Like much like Giroud had, because his off the ball work rate wasn't good either. So it's
Yeah.
like he just really he'd have to get open around two guys, and he just didn't work hard enough to do it.
Yeah, the Giroud saga is officially over. Thank God we didn't have to talk about that while we were gone on vacation and what all we were doing. We move on without Giroud. Um, Fitting that we lost his last game, right? Yeah, we lost. Yeah, yep, we lost. So, and yeah, kudos to him for recognizing that he was a bad fit overall in the City of Angels and moved on. Um, and that's the team. I think that playing the young guys is the right thing to do. They're the ones in form. They're the ones giving us good minutes, quality minutes, hustle. They're the ones that want to grow their careers. They're the ones that are looking at contract renewals. There's a lot of decision making for JT over the next 6 months. So I don't know, Eric. It's going to be probably a lot more renewing guys that are going to expire than bringing flashy dudes from Europe. You know what I mean? I love to see a couple key players come in, right? If any of these Brazilian guys want to come play for us, why not, man? JT did tell me that he likes Brazilian players. He gave me a very political answer, like, "Oh, Danilo Silva, they're all great players," and then Marlon's off the fucking bus the next week. But he did say he has a knack for Brazilian players, bro.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'd like to see more. And I think that's one thing Club World Cup showed us is that there's a lot of fire in the bellies in Brazilian players out there, and they're all
They want to
I
be
think they're
seen.
all fighting extra hard to prove themselves, and that's the kind of
Yeah.
grit that we can use in our team. Not some
Mhm.
spoiled, entitled, lazy old European guy that like wants to come live in Hollywood and go to some parties because their football career is basically over. But I'll
Mm.
go play at this MLS team because whatever, it's fucking American soccer and that doesn't count. Like fuck these guys. I don't like it. We have the 2 years of getting strung along by Griezmann. Like I said, Son would be cool, but then he came out and said, I think I want to go play in Saudi Arabia or Turkey for another year before I go there. And it's like, man, we're not the fucking side piece, man. We're the fucking real deal here. So I don't want to see players come in who have this sort of attitude that like they're above us and that we can just wait for them
Yeah.
because they're all fucking that. Like, go down
Yep.
south, get some hungry guys that want to prove themselves because they're going to have more exposure here than they have. Maybe not necessarily in Brazil, but they'll have a different kind of exposure here than they have in Brazil.
Oh, you might have the wrong kind of exposure. Look at Palacios. I wanted to do the Brazilian USA segment today, but we've had so many issues, so we're gonna push that to Monday to talk about some of these players. But look at Diego Palacios. Diego Palacios played 3 games before now being rebooted to Austin, Texas. Another player that they're gonna get from us. So you know what I mean? It is not easy to show up there. The training routines are harder. Maybe you know what I mean. You get injured more often, whatever it may be. But there is never certain. So it's not necessarily the right kind of added. I would say exposure that you want, right? As far as Europe goes, the only guy I would go after that, maybe a guy like Raheem Sterling, like a big name, right? But still within our budget. That it would cost some money, but it's not crazy to think that this guy like could actually come and play for us if we decide to play, put some money. What's interesting about LAFC is that we haven't spent money on these marquee players. Usually, when we spend money, is young to develop and sell and make money, right? So we get to see us spend money on a real guy that wants to play for us. It's all free agents or opportunistic views. That's the JT way. Maybe it's an
Yeah,
MLS thing, but
and that's
I
the
don't know.
way. Look,
It
we
it
got
holds us
Gareth
back.
Bale.
Whether it holds us back as a league or it just holds us back.
Yeah, look, what JT has to do, and what I think he has done decently, is you leverage Los Angeles and you leverage Hollywood. Like
Yeah.
Garrett. Gareth Bale he came here because he wanted to get in form for the World Cup because Wales was in it for the first time in like 64 years or 62 years. So his only criteria was it was a team that was going to the playoffs so that he could have that extra time in the season. And LA, attractive place, plenty of nice golf courses, and he can play. And so he wasn't on a DP contract. Would other MLS teams have paid him DP money to have him there? Absolutely.
Yes.
But LA doesn't have to because we can leverage that. And so the moral of the story here is that like we got to stop like simping for these players. Like they want to if you want to come to LA, cool. Thomas Muller, how much money have you made in your career? Like, yeah,
Yeah.
you'd love to live in LA. I know you'd love to live in LA. But if you want to come and live in LA, like you're you're not going to get a king's ransom to come here. Absolutely not. I mean, he said the right things about players playing in the heat. He's like, this is what we do, this play. I like that grit. I wouldn't mind him coming here, but not as a DP, and that's the thing. A lot of these guys coming here, and they've ended up on the bench, and they've been on the bench for half a year, three-quarters of a year, and then they want to come here as a DP. Fuck that. Like,
No. And that's why that DP shit needs to end ASAP, buddy. You know what I mean? And we're not here to talk about that. We're not that kind of people here. But this stuff it served its purpose. You understand it better than me. But it's time to stop judging things from a DP, non-DP lens. It's time to really stop thinking of MLS as this special league that has its own jams. There's a lot of people with a lot of money in this fucking country, and if they feel like spending money on goddamn soccer players, they should be allowed to. I cannot believe that we're still having this conversation. So hopefully, and maybe this just gets lifted and we move on with this conversation because it is exhausting. As we've been covering and following MLS for this much long, it's just starting to rub us down, especially when you compare yourself with the other teams. But we got to get out of here. I'm gonna give you last saying, but we got to get out of here for various reasons. I feel like something's gonna die really soon on my side.
oh,
But
last, all right.
any parting words from you, Bud, before this game? And of course, we're gonna be here on Monday with a regular show.
Yeah. Hello Kitty is a cult. Number one. The lines were insane. Thank you, Yamil, for waiting in line for an hour and a half to grab me one. I look forward to
He
seeing it.
did. Oh my God,
Oh man, Junior's the best, man. That's my dog right there.
Junior.
And the other
I
thing
know where you
is,
live.
salary caps aren't changing anytime soon, Celso, because it's going to require a vote of the owners to do that, and not enough of the owners are going to vote to put themselves at that big of a disadvantage to the owners who want to spend, which I believe are still a minority of the owners, and you need a pretty big majority to change a rule like that. So it's not going to happen anytime soon, and that's that. So we're living in a DP world.
Yeah, great. California is getting rid of gambling. Marijuana is still not federally regulated, and we still have DPs in Major League Soccer. Woo!
And only
Looking
three.
great, guys. You don't even live in California anymore, so you don't have to deal with this. But we can't even play the little daily fantasy anymore. These guys try to take the shit away from us.
We can't play it.
Whatever,
It's
man.
illegal here too.
some shit. Oh yeah, you guys are fucked. Yeah, yeah, because you have it's because of the native. If you have natives, we're just like we're not doing this, guys. But
Oh,
Eric, it's been a
sorry.
pleasure, my man. It's always cool to talk to you. I apologize for everybody that stuck around for our dumbness that it is, our technical difficulties.
Yeah.
But we made a show out of it, and on Monday we're gonna be all button up and make sure that everything is working before this show. We hope so.
Yep.
Later, Eric. Later, everybody.
Later.
It's good to see y'all's. And LA is black and gold, and this is Los Angeles.
Oh